Are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? What if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more with my guests, Ree, aka Iritadescent, and Frikachu. Hey,
Hey.
so I'm just gonna roll right into the interviews. So, hey, Ree, aka Iritadescent.
Hey.
So tell me, who are you as an artist, and where are you from, and what's the deal with your name?
Well, I'm from North Bergen, New Jersey. I like to consider myself a multimedia light artist. So I deal with anything that really emits light, whether that be through a projection or through a screen. I make a lot of video work, but I also make a lot of light installations that I use just pure light. Um, Iridescent is just a play on the word iridescent, and the definition of iridescent is anything that is light reflecting or refracting that changes at different angles, like how you look at it. So, you know, oil slicks on the ground or clouds, certain clouds, if they're in a certain position, can be iridescent. You know, like fish or bug scales can be iridescent depending on the way the light's hitting it. So I feel like in my work, because I deal with so many different forms of light, it's all changing, and my name is incorporated in that name.
Awesome, that's a great description, and I think it really fits your work too, since a lot of your pieces are so like colorful and shimmering.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like when artists have pseudonyms just in general.
Yeah.
It's more interesting than just a regular name sometimes.
Yeah. I've had a name for a couple of years, and I've always thought, like, okay, well, have I outgrown this name? But then the more that I do, the more it just reinforces that type of work. So,
Yeah, I don't think you probably can't shake it off anytime soon. So I like your background too. Where are you right now? I
I
see a
am
lot of lights
in,
happening.
yes, I am in my studio in Newark. I live in Newark now. Um, and I have a light installation going on with several
Ooh.
rotating objects. I've been playing a lot with shadow work and focusing on the shadows that are happening. And there's just two light sources that are hitting this, but I have several light reflecting and refracting objects that are fun to work with.
That's really cool. I like how you work with light in both, a real physical space, as in the piece that you have behind you, and through digital spaces, like the glitch art that we're going to show a little later in the stream. It's neat that you have those, you know, divergent media.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm also really glad that all three of us have our own colored backgrounds. This is gonna look really good as a thumbnail when I put it on Instagram. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
Um,
we're family right now.
so how did you get your start as an artist? It sounds like you've had just your pseudonym for a while. Have you been creating work for a long time too?
I have. Um, I started with photography. I got my BFA in photography, and that was back in 2015. And I always felt like I needed to document light in general, the way light would fall on different surfaces, different types of light, um, the way light would interact with a prism or like mirror objects. And so I would document it a lot. And I was documenting it so much that I started to document other light artists. And I had this whole trip that I went across Europe documenting light art festivals where they would transform the entire city with light installations, projection mapped, like you name it. And I made it my job to document all this because I felt like I needed to witness it. And then after a couple of months, I came back home and I was like, well, I feel like I should just make it. Instead of documenting, I feel like I should make it. And then I went through several existential crises where, I felt like, well, I don't have any experience with light installation or sculpture because I'm from a photo background, but I would just do things like this in my living space, and eventually I would on it until it almost became an obsession. And that obsession became just like my passion. And I was like, okay, maybe I can work with this.
That's a great origin story, and you do seem obsessed. I follow your Instagram, and you're so prolific. Just between your posts and your Instagram stories, that either documenting your own art or posting, some sort of cool light artwork in nature or that someone else created. You're always on there, so you give people a lot of content to follow.
I do. It's like I feel like my brain is always in overdrive, like conceptually or with different mediums. Like if I'm not creating light, I'm creating like glitchy videos where like media manipulation is a big thing in my work too, because it's similar. Like with light play, I'm projecting a light or casting a light on an object and seeing what it does. But in video work, I'm putting it through different uh, programs or processes, edits to transform it that way. So I'm kind of manipulating it in the pure visual data that it has. That makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Um, you know, normally I would ask, why do you like glitch art above other media? But I'm kind of curious. Do you have a preference for the kind of natural, like physical light artworks that we see behind you, or are you more oriented towards the glitch art? Do you have a preference for one or the other, or is it just like two sides of the same coin?
I think it's two sides of the same coin. Um, because I consider myself a conceptual artist above all else. So I'm using these mediums to create almost an alternate reality. I'm, um, I'm distorting reality. I'm trying to transport the viewer, whether that be with light or through a video. Like sometimes I'll just put out videos that I'll glitch and distort, but the viewing of it through a screen is its own experience, or projecting that is its own experience, because I'm trying to make like entrance the viewer and suggest that there's a different reality.
Yeah, it's almost as if not just the artworks that you create, but the screen itself is a sort of portal that
Yeah.
allows you to see a window into a different reality. And for you, it's like a portal within a portal because so many of your artworks are themselves like portals into other realities. Um, so what can you tell me more about your work in particular? Like maybe your portal um, pieces, I guess you could say.
Well, my pieces actually began at the big pandemic.
Hmm.
So I had my master's in light art, and I had my whole light installation show, and then the pandemic happened, and I didn't have a job anymore. I didn't know how to showcase my light art. It was impossible because everyone was inside. And it started with someone messaging me on Instagram, and they kind of just said, "Can you make a portal? Like give me something that I can escape to
Hmm.
by looking at my phone because everyone's on their phone. There's nothing else you can do when you're locked inside." And I was like, okay. And I had some experience with video collage, so I found I would find images with like doorways or windows, and then I would insert a different moving image within the door, within the window, and it became something that people were really to and really felt transported. I'm like, wait, I think I'm on something here. I can actually, people feel like they're being transported by this small imagery on their screen. And so I kept doing it. I made a portal almost every day. I would have like a galaxy portal in in a sewer, or like an ocean portal like within like an abandoned house, like something completely out of context where that person could be like, oh, that's interesting, and still kind of making it almost realistic. And so I played with that idea, and it's still ongoing. I feel like I consider myself a portal maker, and it reaches out now into installations, into AI even. I started doing a lot of work with AI. So
Yeah, I was actually that's the next thing I was going to ask you about actually, because I've seen that you use some sort of AI or some sort of like automated processes in your work. So I'm really curious to hear about that. Can you tell me what programs you use and how you came across those applications?
so I saw a video of someone making an AI generated video, and I immediately became fascinated by it. And I'm like, wait, did a person make this? Like, a person made it, but it was sent through an algorithm. And so I did my research. I was like, okay, I found this app slash website called Night Cafe, and you type in prompts, written prompts that tells the computer what to generate. And the more specific you are, the more specific the computer will try to emulate what you're saying. And the end product is just an image, but they've developed a code where you can see the iterations that the computer makes. So the videos that I'm posting that are AI are the computers, like their brain processing your prompt and the morphing and the whatever whatever work it's doing, it's showing that process. And I found that to be completely fascinating.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is always something that's been viewed as something, kind of threatening to people, and it's
Mm.
so mechanical but it can understand human emotions. And yet now we're actually using it, and surprise, we're using it to make more art in ways that we wouldn't have been able to make before. It's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting development.
Yeah, so the videos that I made for this project, I took the AI generated videos and I layered them with different edited glitched video. I basically just went ham with layering all these types of videos to kind of create this like really this raw imagery to the music.
Which we will see pretty soon. And it's really cool. It's a cool combination of art and music. Um, we're gonna start moving on to that segment soon. But before we go, I'm curious, what do you want to work on in the future? Because it sounds like you've already had a lot of progressions from, starting in just documenting other people's light work to making your own to then using automation. And then to cap that off, let us know where people can find you online and how they can contact you.
Um, well, I I aim to try to just refine everything that I'm doing now to maybe combine all these elements, like combine light art with art with projections of AI and create an entire experience. Um, in the physical world, I'd want people to experience this in real life. So I feel like I'm building up to that. So I may work a little bit here with an installation and like building these AI videos and this glitch art. And what really interests me is actually glitching and manipulating data in real time. So um, I had some experience projecting for some music shows where I was physically glitching and manipulating my own imagery, which was super, super fun, super cool. And I feel like that's where I want to go. Like, I want it to be live, I want it to be physical at, in the future. um, but until then, to see the whole process and the building blocks, the best way to reach me would be my Instagram, Iritadescent.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story. But don't
Thank you.
don't go yet. We still
No.
have more to do. So now I'd like to place the spotlight on Bex, aka Frikachu. Hey.
Hello.
Hi,
Uh,
Bex.
Hi.
so I'll give you a quick list of the same questions. Who are you as a musician and maybe as an artist? Where are you from? And what can you tell us about your pseudonym?
Sorry, what was the last question?
What can you tell us about your pseudonym, Frikachu,
Oh,
your alter ego?
uh, sure. Um, uh, honestly, it's difficult sometimes to find defining words and concepts to like um describe the creative process, but I feel like in general, I would say with music, it's driven by a desire, kind of similar to Iritadescent's portal concept, in a way that the process of making the music puts me in an altered state. So uh, the hope is that people who will listen to it will experience something similar in their own way. So in that way, I guess it's also kind of driven by this portal concept, and it's all definitely a vent of its own, because the creative process is kind of venting the energies and emotions you have. Um, I would say that for the most part, I was really inspired by Solar Fields, who is like a musician and a sound designer who creates these landscapes. But his mode of painting is sound,
Mm,
vibration, right? So yeah, I'm all over the place. Honestly, I do I do a little bit of everything, but
you really do.
I'm okay with that, I guess. Um, so I guess Frikachu is just something that was said my best friend and partner in crime one day, and it just felt like that's my, like you said, the alter ego. That's like the kid that will never stop poking at things and trying to figure out what everything is. So that kind of stuck around with me, and yeah, that's, if you type in Frikachu in any platform, in Spotify or SoundCloud or Instagram, it's gonna direct you to me. So yeah, um that's, I think that kind of wraps it up.
Awesome. Um, so yeah, check out check out Frikachu on all those different platforms. Um, now, let's check out your music itself, along with Iridescent's video. I'm gonna remove all of us from the stream for a second and put up the video, and once we're done, we'll talk more about living in the Matrix. So I'll see both of you soon.
Let's do it.
dia nira tiad had kharira wana binin 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 dia nira
That was awesome.
I agree.
Yeah, what a
It,
great combination of visuals and audio.
really
And
great.
I know
Yeah.
they weren't meant to go together, but they went together really well.
True.
Well, I made them go together.
Oh, that's true because you created the visuals after the fact, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had I had the content available that I specifically edited afterwards,
Mm.
and I first listened to all of the songs, and I kind of organized it in a way where certain certain glitches worked more with one song than the other, like ones that were really like upbeat and fast, or ones that were like a little bit more like mellowed out. So
By the way, I noticed your quality of video improved a little bit. Did you manage to get it on your laptop?
no, but I'm glad it
Oh,
improved.
no way. Yeah, it looks much clearer now, for whatever reason.
Oh wow,
We're experiencing a glitch in the matrix right
literally.
now. And speaking of, that's a great segue into our next subject of conversation. Um, quick one yes or no answer from both of you before we really go deep. Are we living in the Matrix in one form or another? What do you think, Bex?
Yes and no. You said to give a
Yes
yes and
and
no.
no.
You said to give a yes and no answer. Yeah, I would say that it's it's kind of both to an extent. I mean, I would lean towards the yes, but I suppose I'd have to elaborate on like what I mean.
And you will get that chance. What do you think, Ree? Are we living in the Matrix in some capacity?
I I mean I can't know for certain, but I think so because there's just you know there's like an ongoing like joke meme where like, oh, the simulation be simulating today. And it's like where like something really absurd or just like how the fuck is this happening right now type of thing. So I mean I like to entertain the idea that we are.
Yeah, whether you truly believe it or not, it is fun to think about in the increasingly absurd world that we're living in. Like maybe we
Hmm.
are in a simulation, and maybe something in that simulation is just going wrong for some reason.
Yeah.
But I bet Frikachu has some deeper thoughts on the matter. What do you
Um,
think? Are we living in a and there's multiple ways to interpret that question. Are we living in a matrix in a sort of sociological sense, like our social systems? Are we living in a technological way? Just the amount of media that we're surrounded by, or is it true on a cosmological, esoteric, universal level too?
right. I mean, isn't the word Matrix itself kind of began from the movie and that whole kind of um that was the original, I guess, interpretation of it. So then when people would use the word Matrix, it would mean that they're referring to the movie. And I actually it resonated with me a lot at first when I encountered it, but then I kind of came to an understanding that it might be painted in a kind of a dark way, or a way that uh, this is just it and it's dark and you kind of have no control over it or something. And I've actually encountered this book called The Holographic Universe, and I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard about it, but it did an amazing job of like flipping that concept around on itself and saying like, yes, it's a program, it's a matrix in a way, even from a point of view of physics and science and stuff, but like you are the programmer. So
Hmm.
it's not like
Mm.
it's being done to you, but if you kind of understand it on that level, then you can kind of manipulate it more towards in your favor, I suppose, you know.
So
So
you don't necessarily think that it's a bad matrix that we're in.
yeah, it's not, it doesn't have a good or bad kind of connotation to it. It's just the pat like I'm sure you guys both are fans of patterns, right? And the patterns are everywhere, and it's all like working upon the same kind of rules. So um it's just is, you know, and then you kind of learn to like do your thingy through it, I guess.
It's interesting that you brought up the holographic universe because while I haven't read the book, I did a little bit of research on the subject, and there are some people in the world of theoretical physics who really do think that the universe is actually a how to phrase this a two-dimensional hologram projected into three-dimensional space uh, for some for some reason based off like the mathematics of the event horizon of a black hole or something along those lines, which
Yeah.
is a crazy concept to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's really crazy when it's you look at it from a side, but when you kind of zoom in, it I think it's more about how like each like pixel of the hologram contains the information of all of the hologram, which is kind of
Mm.
like the quantum physics like of basically. And it's basically just talking about the interconnectedness and how it's all affected by like the mental processes versus having like a coherent physical nature. So it's the reason why this book is really cool is because it talks about it from a just a point of view of like a human body and the brain too, and how even if you don't zoom out and just take yourself as an example, like certain behaviors or mental patterns that you can, you know, engage in yourself can actually affect like the shell that you're in, and that kind of also contributes to the holographic universe theory in a way that your you know, mind over matter basically, you know. So yeah, something like that.
The idea of the universe, or each point in the universe containing some sort of connection to the whole, the entirety of the universe, is such an interesting concept because it's something that maybe is is being validated or explored by very modern theoretical physics, but it's also an idea that's no stranger to more ancient philosophies and belief systems. So it's cool seeing certain things that have been suspected or were thought intuitively such a long time ago validated by just math and science.
Yeah, we just needed to take that circle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have
Well,
any?
yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, you can look at it mathematically and scientifically, but also, like ancient Indian religions, where they pose the idea of different lifetimes and like different universes, like is this is our world really like the only world that exists, and like does our world overlap on other worlds and other realities? You know, like it it seems kind of foolish to think that we're the only ones that exist ever at any point. And I don't know, with the ancient Indian religions where you know, the idea of reincarnation and thinking back about past lives and past selves, where those were different realities that sometimes you can even tap into. So if you can tap into a past reality, could you tap into an alternate reality? And I feel like that's kind of a glitch in the matrix, because if everything is already designed, then how can you tap into those other parts?
Well, there are a number of theories for, um, what kind of how our universe was created, or what the state of it is. And one theory is that we do exist in some sort of multiverse in which all possibilities exist simultaneously, even if we're not directly connected to them. Somewhere outside of our perspective, there is an almost identical reality happening with just a few variations, and maybe more realities happening with a lot of variations and totally different realities out there. And the fact that we're here alone is just crazy when you stop to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're here, then why not everything else? If that makes sense.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also ties into the like the multiverse ties into the Matrix, aka holographic universe, and I think the core of it kind of points to the um physicality not being fundamental, right, at the core, and it's more fluid than that. That's the
Right.
point.
We have this illusion of solidity, um, but really it's a projection of electromagnetic fields, and the actual matter that our bodies are comprised of are like tiny, tiny spaces.
Right.
Well,
99.9% empty. So go ahead.
well, I wanted to ask Doug, what do you think? What do you believe?
Oh boy, I'm put on the spotlight now. Um, well, I think the fact that I'm doing this means that I probably lean in that direction of viewing reality as some sort of simulated experience. To me, doesn't it seem like physics could be a sort of programming language?
Mm-hmm.
They're in,
Yes.
they're informing all the maybe not like the choices that we make, but in terms of the physical interactions that happen between objects and forces in the universe. It seems like there are these concrete, clearly defined laws that are saying, if this, then that, just like a programming language.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I study programming and data science, the more I start thinking about that is like, hey, all of these mathematical equations that seem to describe in perfect detail the mechanical processes of the world, they can be boiled down to a few simple equations and
Mm.
symbols that, when combined, create this very complex system. But at its core, it seems not very complicated at all.
Right. DNA too. Like if you really think about like the whole programming put into that, that's just like builds organisms everywhere all the time. That's like, you know, um, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's programming and coding that's being, read and manifested as it's, happening.
Yeah, it's biological programming,
Yeah.
not necessarily in the form that we recognize through computers, but it's
It's a
it,
formula.
Exactly. It's a formula. Through the chemical bonds,
Mhm.
this equation is created. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a question.
Sure.
If it's all programmed and everything can be boiled down to an equation or a formula, then who's doing the programming? Is
No,
it is it God?
right. That's the hard question. I don't even know if I want to answer that.
I'm gonna make the truck backing up sound and be like beep beep beep.
What do you think? Because I'm supposed to be the one asking the questions here. I'm gonna
Yeah, what do you think?
put that back onto both of you.
Well, I mean, I I like to think I'm spiritual, but I'm also very much into science. And I feel like for me, science and nature and spirituality are all intertwined. And I mean, we came here like for we came here after some type of equation in whether like the Big Bang or whatever. Um, so I mean, if there's a bigger hand in that, or is it just completely random? Like I
Hmm.
find it hard to believe it's completely random, you know. But I don't know.
Well, when I was answering the question about the Matrix, the reason why I mentioned the fact that even when you kind of realize you are in some sort of a Matrix thingy, there's also this feeling that you are the programmer because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really awesome to stretch out your brain and think about what you're talking about, but there's also, I feel like people use that to kind of um not to put the responsibility, but to feel like there's a power that is guiding you, that is higher, and you are at its will. But I feel like it's also kind of useful to see that in yourself, to see that you actually have like that much power over your life to like, do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know nothing. I literally don't know anything.
Personally, I think that one of two possibilities exists. Whether if there is a creator, if there is some sort of programmer of this simulation, if we are in a simulation to begin with, um, it might not even be a divine being or entity. It could just as easily be some person playing The Sims, and but on a galactic scale, and we are the Sims in the game. We could be characters in a sort of cosmic video game, for all we know, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, like you said, we are playing this game, whatever it is, and we're choosing to have these experiences here. On the other hand, maybe there is no programmer. Maybe the multiverse theory actually holds true, and we're here in this reality existing because all possibilities that could exist do exist. So there might be universes where the there are no laws of physics and nothing exists in that universe, or universes where the laws of physics are just a little bit different in a way that can't produce life. And obviously we're not in that universe because we couldn't be. So,
Yeah.
for me, it's
Um,
one of those two directions. It's hard to say which
um,
one.
how do you guys feel about the concept of like energy itself that brings life to life being the thing that people try to animate and personify? but it's not a being, but more of just the whatever the thing is that makes something alive. Verse, that's also, I feel like, physics and when like the whole science and spirituality merging part, I think they kind of trying to do it from a point of view of energy being the driving force and this concept versus like a external being. I guess this is what I'm trying to get at.
Hmm.
Like it's the energy itself versus a like a player somewhere or like a being somewhere outside of the thing.
I think I understand what you're saying. So the difference between maybe our physical matter producing our conscious awareness through just like chemical reactions versus maybe some spiritual essence or soul, I guess you want to call it, that is inhabiting our physical forms. Is that where you're getting at?
Yeah, I think I'm just getting at like whether consciousness is emergent or fundamental thing is all basically what you just said. Yeah.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Personally, I sort of see us as maybe being like radio transmitters, as in we're sort of channeling that signal. And of course, if the radio is broken or the dial is not quite on the right channel, then that information is not going to come through the same way as if the dial was on point or the radio was working properly. And when the radio is destroyed, that signal doesn't come through anymore. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gone. It's just that physical entity, the device of the radio, is just no longer able to carry that signal. So personally, that's how I view um, people, I guess. Although I'm not 100% sure about that.
But what do you think, Rita?
Yeah, what do you think?
I I definitely think that we are all energy, and just like the energy that I generate and being around other people, feeling their energy, um, being in nature, feeling nature's energy, being around animals. Like I have two cats, and
I heard
definitely
one
feel
before.
they're so annoying right now. um, but I mean, there's definitely like, because like energy can be broken down in like just scientifically, but then how can you explain feeling someone else's energy without them ever saying anything or doing anything, where you feel a sense of something that emits from them? And is it their consciousness that we're feeling, because consciousness is this ultimate like connection that we all have to each other, that we have to the earth, that we have to the sky. um I mean, I like to think that that's true, that this consciousness, this energy, is something that um connects us all. um in terms, even like personally, like I've always considered myself like a vessel of energy in terms of making art. Like, why do I have to create light? Like, why is it that I'm so drawn to the way light reacts and what it does, and why do I have to document it? Why do I have to make it? And I came to like a conclusion that it's just like I'm generating it, I'm channeling it from something else. I'm like channeling that energy, or it's being channeled through me rather. So I mean, it's hard to explain, really.
It is hard to explain. Well, I would love to continue this conversation, but we're trying to keep it around an hour. So I think that's probably a great place to stop anyway. And before we go, could both of you let everyone know where they can find you? Just a reminder online.
Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram, Iritadescent.
You can find me on my Instagram as well. It's at Frika_Chu, and it's Frikachu on SoundCloud and Spotify.
Awesome. Well, thanks to both of you for sharing your thoughts and being with me here on the stream. This was really great.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
having us.
Doug.
All right, so that was Bex, aka Frikachu, and aka Iritadescent. I'm Doug Rizzio, and just to close, are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? What if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more next time on Glitch in the Matrix. Bye.